In the most recent Watchtower magazine published by Jehovah's Witnesses, there was an article that had a profound impact on my otherwise rather stoic disposition. This had me ranting and raving, pacing back and forth and yapping like a maniac to myself, and I've tried to make this video 3 times, but as I was trying to edit it, I realized I was just a ball of emotions and anger and shaking my fists, but I decided, no, I'm not going to publish what I normally would of just me ranting and raving and shaking my fists, but I would actually take a couple of days, settle down, let all the dust find all the nooks and crannies of my mind, and come out with something that at least is semi-coherent and makes a logical case for why this can be so upsetting and so triggering for a lot of people. And it has to do with an article that was talking about help for mistreated women. So let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today we are looking at some garbage, some hot stinky poo from Watchtower HQ. I don't know if that really rhymes, but it doesn't really matter. Quickly before we get into it, don't forget to drop a like on the video. It literally takes a half a second. I'll even give you time to do it. See, thanks. And we got to hear the Among Us music again. Maybe we should actually change that. Nope. Or maybe I'll do it next time. Anyway, I'm trying to hit 45,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If you could help me reach that goal, I would very much appreciate it. With all of that being said, let us look at this article that really triggered this neurotic, manic behavior for a couple of days from me. So begins the JW article, Women's Safety, the Bible's Perspective. A link at the end of that article lets you download a PDF of the material, which can then be printed and folded into a 4-page track. I printed copies and, along with another sister, took them to a woman's shelter in my congregation's territory. Says a sister in the United States named Stacy. Wow, that was a lot of S's. An employee there asked if she could have additional copies to distribute to those living at the shelter. As a result, 40 or more of these tracts were delivered along with 30 JW.org contact cards. On a later visit, the administrator at the shelter expressed interest in having a personal Bible study demonstrated for the residents. Stacy and 2 other sisters had similar success at another shelter where 5 copies of the tracts were accepted and were requested. This pamphlet will help women here, said one of the employees. She added, "We need this." You really don't. On a later visit, several residents gathered together to see a Bible study demonstrated, and 2 of them expressed interest in attending next week's meeting at the Kingdom Hall. Stacy says, quote, "We are amazed at how this beautiful article has been received when printed and folded." Thanks for that detail, Stacy. "It is an appealing way to share the kingdom message with this special audience. We are touched by the warm reaction we receive, and we are excited to see how Jehovah will bless our efforts to reach these individuals further with the good news." So why did this short article send me into such a spiral? Well, because speaking from my own personal experience, the mistreatment of vulnerable people has a lifelong effect. When you are in a vulnerable position and you're in a situation where there are people that should be your protectors, they should be your comfort, they should be your family, and they use that in a way that degrades you, abuses you, victimizes you, messes with your head, messes with your body, it will kind of stay with you. Not kind of, it will stay with you for the rest of your existence. And I have a very emotional, I'm going to try and keep it together. Like I said, I've tried to make this video a bunch of times, but I usually just end up crying. I'm not going to do that this time, though. I'm locked in. If I keep saying it, then it'll actually happen. I'm manifesting over here. But this is something very personal to me. So on the surface, let's just take this as it is. The Jehovah's Witnesses are going out of their way to try and find people that are in a very vulnerable situation. They're in a woman's shelter, seeking refuge from whatever circumstances that they had previously, and trying to pick up the pieces of their life and put it back together. The last thing that they need is to have some bozo come from a religious doomsday cult and offer them kindness and compassion and fake friendship because there will be this immediate gravity that that person will have. You will see them as a mother or a sister, whatever it is, an aunt that you never had, that you wished you had had. And that comfort and safety can get you to believe a lot of stuff. And trust me, in my time as a Jehovah's Witness, I have seen this play out with my own eyes. This exact scenario where someone from a woman's shelter learns about it, gets accepted by the congregation, and then their life is made completely miserable because it was all a facade. It was all fake. So they're just off rip. This is really bad from that perspective. Going out of your way to try and indoctrinate vulnerable people is disgusting, especially when there is no real love and real family within the organization, because it's all predicated on how good of a Jehovah's Witness you are. And if you don't meet a certain standard, you might get kicked out and lose all of those things that you thought you had, which can be just make the situation that much worse. When you finally find yourself in a situation where you do feel comfortable and you do feel like you have safety and family, and then you make a little mistake or you make a whoopsie, or God forbid you go on the internet and actually research your beliefs and you find out it's all a bunch of hooey, then you're going to lose that again. And you hit the reset button again. So it's a really bad situation. But it's even worse than that, because Watchtower is in no position to be giving advice or even speaking to women in a vulnerable position, because they have a very storied history of offering absolute dog shit advice that has caused an unbelievable amount of suffering because of the words Watchtower has said. And I want to try and explain this as logically as possible. So we're going to do like a halfway deep dive here, just so you can understand exactly what I'm on about. So to kick things off, I just wanted to show what I think is one of the worst clips that's ever been aired on JW Broadcasting. And I know a lot of people, they are listening to this while they're cleaning or working or whatever the case might be on in the background. Totally fine. But please, 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 just 60 seconds. This clip is 60 seconds long, 60 seconds of your undivided attention, so you can really absorb what's happening here in its full context. So this is a leader, a de facto leader of the Jehovah's Witnesses around the world. He controls the spiritual, the social, the familial lives of Jehovah's Witnesses around the world. Now listen to this ostentatious, morally bankrupt moron give his 2 cents about what a woman should do in a situation where she has an abusive husband.
And this world's media is very skillful at presenting something bad as good. For example, in a movie, a female character might be portrayed as having a husband who is abusive. You like the woman, and you want her to find happiness. Then a handsome man starts working in her office, and he's so nice to her. There's an attraction between them, and the budding romance is presented as something good. Soft background music makes it hard to consider her course to be bad. It's easy to keep watching and hope she leaves her marriage mate and runs off with her workmate. And usually that's what happens. So easily we can forget that Jehovah and Jesus hate adultery and unscriptural divorce.
If that doesn't make you sick, please check your health insurance and see if therapy is provided for free because you need it. That should make you ill. And, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be telling you what to do, but if it doesn't, it would really shock me. Let's just put it that way. And this is something that he came up with, he thought about, he put it into the script, they edited it, and they sent it out into the whole world to see. He gave it his stamp of approval. This message, I approve of this message. Certified organic, straight out of this shit is straight out of his mouth, okay? So let's look at what Jehovah's Witnesses have written about this specific situation, because if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you've just stumbled across this, what you might be thinking is that, oh, well, if a woman is in a dangerous situation, she can leave. She has that right. So I just want to present the case of what, yes, the Jehovah's Witnesses say is allowed, and what is actually socially thought of and acceptable within their culture. And then we'll tie it all in at the end. So let's jump into a good old book, The Secret of Family Happiness, because that was the first one I could think of off the top of my head that had the information we were looking for. So on page 161 of this book, there is this paragraph 20. In all cases of extreme spousal abuse, no one should put pressure on the innocent mate either to separate or to stay with the other. While mature friends and elders may offer support and Bible-based counsel, these cannot know all the details of what goes on between a husband and wife. Only Jehovah can see that. Of course, a Christian wife would not be honoring God's marriage arrangement if she used flimsy excuses to get out of marriage. But if an extremely dangerous situation persists, no one should criticize her if she chooses to separate. Exactly the same thing could be said of a Christian husband. So, if there are extreme cases of this spousal abuse, she would be allowed to separate from that person. But let me just go a few paragraphs up, and there's a little bit of a qualifier to this rule that they have. And that's in paragraph 17. Are there situations that may justify separation or possible divorce from a marriage mate, even if that one has not committed fornication? Yes, but in such a case, a Christian is not free to pursue a third party with a view to remarriage. So this is a very obscure Jehovah's Witness rule that, as far as I'm aware, is still in place today. And that is, if you fear for your life and your health, your fine will allow, it's a personal decision. You know, we don't like it, but it's a personal decision that you can make. Someone could separate or divorce their abusive partner. But unless they have direct evidence that they can provide to elders that that their abusive partner has started fornicating, has started sleeping with someone else, they are no longer free to pursue a marriage of their own. That's what that paragraph says. So if we go our separate ways because you're a dick and I want to move on with my life, well, the dick, he has control over the innocent person, because if he doesn't fess up, if he covers his tracks, if there's no evidence, or if he's just wanting to be a lunatic, he can control whether or not this woman is able to pursue a relationship with someone else, which is a very important component to this entire situation, because that is naturally going to make people feel stuck. Well, can't go anywhere. I guess I just have to wait and endure. So I want to go and read a Watchtower excerpt. Why did my brain just literally shut off there? That really helps specify what the Watchtower's advice has historically been for women facing this awful situation. So this is from a 1970, I believe it's August 1st, I'm going to say. I'll put it on screen now so you can see for yourself. Showing respect toward her husbandly head, the Christian wife would not use God's truth to threaten him. Even if he rejects the truth, does not want to hear about it, or even treats his wife abusively, reviling her, she would not be justified in using the truth to threaten him. When her gracious words are rejected or she is treated abusively, the Christian wife does well to remember Jesus' example. Concerning this, the Apostle Peter wrote, quote, "In fact, to this course you were called, because even Christ suffered for you, leaving you a model for you to follow his steps closely. He committed no sin, nor was deception found in his mouth. When he was being reviled, he did not go reviling in return. When he was suffering, he did not go threatening, but kept on committing himself to the one who judges righteously. That is the wise course for Christian wives. There is another way in which a wife can witness to her husband regardless of how opposed he might be to Bible truth. That is by her fine conduct. Then it goes and quotes something from the Apostle Peter. The Apostle Peter emphasized the value of fine conduct and the quiet and mild spirit. From the context, we learn that the apostle is discussing the Lord Jesus Christ and how mildness distinguished him. When he was undergoing injustices, he refused to make vehement protest. He went like a lamb to the slaughter, knowing it was God's will for him. There was no loud, strong protest, no departing from mildness. And so Peter, talking to married women, stresses that mildness has great value in the eyes of God. So Stacy and her friend that went to this women's shelter have grown up in this religious, patriarchal, headship, submissive world of Jehovah's Witnesses, where they have to have this quiet and mild, submissive attitude toward their husband, even in situations where they are being physically hurt, mentally terrorized, or verbally abused. They are to maintain the spirit like Jesus. He didn't go reviling. He didn't commit. He didn't threaten anyone. He just was, hey, sit there and smile and look pretty. That's what Jesus did. And honestly, that's what the Bible thinks that you women should do as well. So this 1970 horseradish mansplaining is truly, truly awful. And that's the world that Stacy and her friend grew up in, and now they are trying to give that to women who are vulnerable but won't actually know what they're getting themselves involved with. They'll have none of this context. This is not something that will be talked about, but it exists. And that clip of Stephen Lett, that's from 2022. So it's still there, culturally speaking. So that's the mindset of them going into it. Now, I tried just to have everything on balance for about 3 hours to find a single example where Watchtower produced a magazine, a blurb, a little quotation, a video, anything at all, showing that a woman exercised her personal choice to leave or separate from her abusive partner and show that in a positive light. Just one. I couldn't. Now, am I saying that they've never done that? No. I'm just saying in my search, I couldn't find it. Maybe I'm the idiot here. Maybe I'm the moron and I couldn't find anything. I'm a pretty good searcher, but sometimes I get stuff wrong. But I couldn't find, after about 3 hours of searching, a single instance of them saying that, hey, that's personal choice that you're allowed to have. Here's a story of that. Here's an example that we are pointing to show you that it's okay, that we're not going to judge you, that it's fine. Just some type of representation that someone that exercised their personal choice was fine and okay in the eyes of the congregation and God. Nothing. But what I did find were hundreds of this example. Selma recalls a lesson she learned from the witness who studied with her. On one particular day, says Selma, I didn't want to have a Bible study. The night before, Steve had hit me as I tried to prove a point, and I was really feeling sad and sorry for myself. After I told the sister what had happened and how I felt, she asked me to read 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. As I did, I began to reason. Steve never does any of these loving things for me. But the sister made me think differently by asking, how many of those acts of love do you show toward your husband? My answer was, none, for he is so difficult to live with. The sister softly said, Selma, who is trying to be a Christian here, you or Steve? Realizing that I needed to adjust my thinking, I prayed to Jehovah to help me be more loving towards Steve. Slowly things started to change. After 17 years, Steve accepted the truth. The crowd goes wild. Everyone's wiggling their fingers. Confetti from the rafters. This same story is regurgitated, whether it's real or not. I know in some cases it's real. In one of the congregations that I attended as a Jehovah's Witness, there was a living, breathing human being that had this experience where her husband was opposed to her being a Jehovah's Witness, wasn't the nicest of guys, had some problems with alcohol. You know how that you know how that story plays out. But after she endured for like 20 years, he eventually came around. And everyone's all hunky-dory and happy. But what about those 20 years? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing by having people go to a woman's shelter, and this is the type of mindset that they'll have, where they think that the correct thing to do is blame the victim and say, no, but let's be honest here. Are you really treating Steve very nicely? I mean, maybe you could shake a little more ass or give him a blowjob now and then. Maybe it'll make things better. That is, I'm not joking here. Like, it's incomprehensible to my neurons that someone would even be allowed in the front door. Like, people need to know about this. Jehovah's Witnesses have no business, zero business, going to very vulnerable people when they have this whole context behind it. They have this social aspect of their religion deeply ingrained in their minds, where they blame the woman and they're proud of it. They publish, again, so many of these stories about how proud they are that their women, they can take a beating. But you know what? Some of them had their husbands join the Jehovah's Witnesses 15 years later. Now let's look at two more clips of talks given by the same person, William Malafant, because I want to have the audience here really understand exactly how freely they talk about it and like what Jehovah's Witnesses think and feel about situations where this is a concern or might be happening.
Its application has helped an untold number of unbelieving mates to accept the truth. And when you think about it, it truly is amazing how deep respect and fine conduct can win over an unbelieving mate without a word being spoken. Of course, as you work what is good towards your mate, there undoubtedly will be opportunities to speak about the truth and provide spiritual assistance when circumstances permit and it seems appropriate. So keep on setting a fine example and praying that your mate will respond to the truth. Have faith in the inspired words that Paul wrote at 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 16. 1 Corinthians 7:16. And remember to continue to show a positive attitude towards your mate. 1 Corinthians 7:16 poses two questions, but with a positive slant. Chapter 7 and verse 16 read, "For wife, how do you know whether you will save your husband? Or husband, how do you know whether you will save your wife?" Yes, this text is telling us to remain positive about the possibility of a mate taking the truth. And it is a fact that many unbelieving mates have accepted the truth because of observing a husband or a wife who follows God's direction. The Christian mate resists the temptation to repay an unkind word or act with another unkindness. Really, no good comes from returning evil for evil. On the contrary, such an attitude can only aggravate the situation. In the domestic setting, a wife who shows genuine kindness to her husband after he makes unpleasant comments about her beliefs, may well diffuse a potentially explosive situation. At Proverbs 31:12, we are told how a capable, God-fearing wife deals with her husband. She rewards him with good, not bad, all the days of her life.
So the entire goal of handling the situation is, how can we bring this guy, this douchebag, into our club? It's weird, but it's true. Like, what are the actions that the woman can take in order to get her husband to become a Jehovah's Witness? That is the primary concern. Safety, moving forward with your life, being happy. None of those things are a concern. They're mildly ancillary, if anything. The primary focus of what the Jehovah's Witnesses have produced for the entirety of their existence has been, how can we help women bring their abusive husbands to become a Jehovah's Witness and join us? So that way the woman can be with this partner forever. Yay! Guess what? Now you get to enjoy an eternity with this monster. But it's okay, because God is going to heal your scars. So let me just play that clip of Stephen Lett one more time so it can really sink in. I mean, just really, really get your mind around how truly diabolical this.
And this world's media is very skillful at presenting something bad as good. For example, in a movie, a female character might be portrayed as having a husband who is abusive. You like the woman, and you want her to find happiness. Then a handsome man starts working in her office, and he's so nice to her. There's an attraction between them, and the budding romance is presented as something good. Soft background music makes it hard to consider her course to be bad. It's easy to keep watching and hope she leaves her marriage mate and runs off with her workmate. And usually that's what happens. So easily, we can forget that Jehovah and Jesus hate adultery and unscriptural divorce.
Stephen Lett grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. He didn't go to college. He went to Bethel instead, and he pioneered, and he worked his way through the ranks of being an elder, of being a circuit overseer, of being a Bethelite. And now he is the most powerful person in the Jehovah's Witness landscape. And through all of those years, there is a 100% certainty that he has heard hundreds, if not thousands, of these cries for help from women in situations like this. And he has stuck with the Watchtower line of, stick it out, look what good can come. Look at all of these people that have eventually gotten their partner to become a Jehovah's Witness. How wonderful. Don't you want that for you? Oh man, don't get blindsided by the sparkly world and Satan's trying to infect your mind thinking that you deserve happiness. And being able to make your way all the way to the governing body, and then, like, in order to do that, I think you have to be so delusional or jaded or just not have any patch notes that have the word morality in them. You've just gone through life without ever upgrading your morals, and you're just a really truly evil person at that point. But there is not a world where society is going to say, you know what, the right course of action for a woman to do is to wait for her husband to change. And that, at the end of the day, is what the advice Jehovah's Witness wives will hear. Wait. Might be 5 years, might be 15 years, might be 20 years, but just wait on Jehovah. Don't actively try and make your life better. And with all of the things and all of the subjects that we talk about, it's a reoccurring theme. Don't pursue happiness, just pursue loyalty. And that mindset transfers over to the organization. Just like you should be loyal to the organization, you should be loyal to your husbands. So Watchtower, you have absolutely no business going around patting yourself on the back because Stacy and her friend went to a woman's shelter and handed out some business cards. Shame on you for saying the things that you've said, for hurting the people that you've hurt. And like every single women's shelter needs to be aware that Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed on their premises. Anyway, kind of a tough subject, but yeah, it's like that sometimes. So with all of that being said, stay safe, be kind, and never forget that curiosity is the real fountain of youth. Have a good ass day.